On this episode, I talked to my best friend from when I was 10. His name is Dino, and the only problem is I hadn't seen him in 35 years. In the summer of 1986, before internet and cell phones, he moved, left me trying to figure out why. And because of internet and cell phones, we reconnected, finding each other almost totally different people. But what stayed the same was the fact that we were both trying to do our best to be the best humans we could be. The strangers we became did not change the common ground we found as kids. Did we just become best friends again? We also talk about how not everybody plays G.I. Joe in the same way. Let's jump in. Hey, everybody. This is a Marley Good podcast, and I am your host, Scotty. Before we get this thing rolling, I want to do my quick shout out. So shout out to my guy, Above Average Joe. He takes care of all my camera work and all the lighting and stuff like that. And then shout out to my guy, Wish Pocket. Jason, you know who you are. So Jason's been helping me with all my audio. And those two guys link it together and make this all like really great. So shout out to those guys. Thank you for that. And go to their pages. Like Joe has a lot of cool pictures. You should definitely check those out. My guy Jaron, he runs No Name Originals. And if you actually go to my website, the No Name Original shirts are like on there. You can help support my guy Jaron. He does like custom artwork and custom bleaching on clothes and stuff like that. Really cool stuff. And then last but not least, my guy Mo, he runs the Go Bubble app. Go Bubble is a mobile detailing service, like to you, kind of like explain to me like Uber Eats or DoorDash or anything else that comes to your house. It's the same thing. So they bring the car wash to you. So Mo, Go Bubble, go_bubble app, I think is what it is. So I'm sure you can find it. So my next guest, I don't even know really how. It's the great parts of social media. It's the tolerable parts of social media that made this kind of happen. So this guy, the last time the last time I saw him, I was roughly 10 years old, correct?
Yeah, it's about 10.
Okay. And this is like before I mean, we just had like landlines. Like, I mean, there was no like cell phones and things like that. And like, I really don't remember, and I don't remember getting to tell him goodbye. It was just like we went to school the next year and he was just like gone. And so, you know, when social media comes back around, you know, it reconnects all your high school friends and all that stuff. And so we initially reconnected on social media, and we've probably been friends on social media, you know, for a while.
Yeah.
Right. But then when I started thinking about like doing the podcast, I was like, how cool would it be to bring in my best friend from when I was 10 that I haven't seen in roughly like 35 years. So everybody say hi to Dino. Dino, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, bring in your mic just a little bit more, Dino. I know it's uncomfortable, but like,
no, it's
okay.
Fine.
Wait,
step up to the mic.
Yeah.
It's good.
Anyways. So what's up, man? It's been 35 years. It's been cool just like hanging out, right?
Yeah, it's actually been really interesting. Like the dynamic whenever you're adults, you know, I don't know, whenever I walked into your home, everybody was just so friendly and accepting and just warm. And it's just like one of those things like, you know, 35 years is a long time. And you have a certain memory of like, you know, you as a kid, obviously. And it's interesting to see that dynamic play out as adults.
Okay,
you know?
well, I can play this game. What do you remember me as a kid? What do you remember? And I'll tell you what I remember. To reference that, we were 10.
Yeah,
that roughly the last like so. I would have called, you know. I'm kind of putting you on the spot, going like, "Hey, I was your best friend," but like, was I your best friend, or like, did I think I was your best friend? Am I making that up in my head? Is that part of me? Like, did I want to be your best friend, but you didn't want to be my best friend? Is that what it was?
I honestly, like, whenever I think about it, it's like, yeah, I remember being on the phone with you all the time. I remember you having all the cool Transformers. I remember
You remember me being spoiled is what you remember.
No, I remember you being spoiled, not
Yeah, that's what
necessarily
I'm
me,
saying. You
but,
remember
like,
me being
yeah,
spoiled.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's like, I remember those things, and you would bring your toys to school, we'd play, we just, like, hang out, I really remember all of that.
I do.
But it's weird because, like you said, I don't remember saying goodbye. I don't remember any of that, and so it's kind of weird. Like, I didn't whenever I moved away, it was one of those things where it's just like, "Okay, you're moving." And, you know, when you reflect back on it, you see the reasoning why, and it wasn't necessarily a good reason, at least
Right.
for me. And so, like, when I think of that time, in elementary school, it's kind of like, as an adult, now that I've had time to reflect on it, I was like, "Damn, that was kinda sad,"
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of what I remember, and I remember you just, like I said, we'd hang out at school, and we'd talk on the phone all the time, and, you know?
I remember, really quick, I'm paranoid about the thing not recording. Okay, it's not recording. Okay, before we get too deep, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I remember is I just remember like just having the like same sense of humor and I mean, in my personal opinion, it takes a lot to make me laugh.
Right.
And I always felt like you made me laugh. Like I was just like, and before it's hard to remember what life was like before social media, but
Yeah.
I feel like before social media, I was like, where'd that guy go? Like I was just so kind of like upset, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or just kind of like pondered about it.
Yeah.
And I would say like, when they talk about like kids growing up, like in like, the formative years,
Yeah.
to suffer a loss like that, like if your parents and you move your kids somewhere or something like
Right.
that, it's probably a little bit more traumatic than maybe parents maybe think.
Yeah. I don't know. It was like one of those things I just didn't necessarily have the time to process it, when I think back then. It was,
That's how I feel as well. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I was just like, it just happened.
Yeah, and I think, like, for a lot of kids, like, especially, like, in my situation, we'll get into that a little bit later, but, you know, I look back at that time, and I ended up moving to a town called Uvalde,
Ooh.
and so and so, whenever I went there, it was a little, traumatic in the sense of, like, I didn't know anybody, and I felt I felt different as it was already, and to be plopped in the middle of somewhere like nowhere to me just really made that kid feel like, wow, who are you? Like you were confused. Now you're gonna be really confused.
And
And
also, and you tell me if any of this is like not fair.
sure,
Well, first of all, Dino,
yeah,
how much weight have you lost?
like 100 pounds.
100 pounds. Hey,
Thanks.
that's great.
Yeah.
So, and it would be fair to say, like when you were younger, you were overweight, right?
Oh
Is
yeah. Oh yeah.
and so now you're an overweight kid,
Yeah.
like in a strange town of Uvalde.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a lot of stuff was stacked against you. I'm assuming, right?
Well, and see, here's the thing too, is like, yeah, it was one of those things like when I look back at it, and it's probably something that, most kids that are like 9, 10, like they remember kind of being bullied and teased a lot. And usually, like, whenever you probably didn't see it, I don't think that you did.
When you said that, I was trying to think. I okay,
Yeah.
okay, it's a long time ago,
Yeah, I know.
but like I would say, and man, this sounds really sad to say this out loud,
Yeah.
but I would say that I felt it, and I was really hurt because you were my friend, but I didn't stand up for you, like because that's not the kind of kid I was
Yeah.
at 10. You know what I mean? And like. I'm sorry. I don't, I mean,
No,
I mean, you're kids, like, so you just don't know. Like, I've never thought about that till this moment. Like, this is my first time to kind of really think about that. But
Mhm.
like, I also like, I mean, there was a part of me that obviously didn't give a shit because I was like, well, he's my friend. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I obviously, I wanted to be friends with you, you know? So look, hey, 35 years later, look, who's laughing now, motherfuckers. Y'all don't even know each other.
No,
and when you came, true or false?
Sure.
This has been pretty easy so far.
Sure.
Yeah.
True.
And so whenever I like, and before we started, I posed the question, are we the same people? We're the same people at 10 that we are now, right? And you were like, no way, right? But what I meant by that is like the core of us, like having a conversation and talking.
Right.
What we were at 10, is that still there? Like, do you think, like, okay, like, think about it. Like, I don't really know you.
Right.
But I knew you for 10 years. But I knew you in the first 10 years, not even for 10 years, because we probably met at like 5, so maybe 5 years.
Yeah. So I would say that there is a 10-year-old core.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
but I don't think that, and I say that in the sense of like, sometimes that kid is hurt.
Sure.
And as an adult, that kid tends to make itself shown.
Sure.
The hurt parts.
Sure.
But in the sense of like, I don't think that we're the same person.
Oh, well, I mean, if we were, that would be horrific.
Horrible.
Yeah, that'd be horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, Dino, if we were the same people, that means we would still be like calling each other and going, hey, come over to the house. I got this transformer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to see it, and you're like, Scott, we're 45. We have to get jobs.
We live on the street now.
We live in a box with a bunch of transformers.
Although that wouldn't be too bad nowadays. But no, I mean, I guess in the sense of like, there will always be that kid, within us in the sense. And it's just kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it other than I've done a lot of therapy.
Well, I mean, and usually you can tell, I mean, it's no secret. I've done a lot of therapy as well. Yeah. And I think that, when you learn to speak therapy, whatever we call that, right? And you try to talk to other people about stuff, it doesn't really compute with them very well. It kind of feels like you're speaking alien and everybody else is speaking English. Yeah. And then when you really process a lot of that stuff, then you kind of like, it's really easy for us to like have a conversation, right? Because like, there's a perspective of where you're coming from, I guess. Right. And so, go to therapy. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy.
It's highly recommended.
Look how awesome we are. We went to therapy.
I think like too, and it's like, like growing up in a, Hispanic household, there's like this stigma against like, therapy and, you solve your own problem. And
it's very machismo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like you figure that out. And, even whenever, when my mom was alive, I told her like, I go into a therapist. I've got all this anxiety. And
what did she say?
She was like, why? Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to tell her. Well, actually I did tell her, but I kind of felt like part of it was like just dealing with my anxiety at the time. And, me and my mom had a really complicated relationship.
I think you shouldn't overestimate how complicated a relationship is with a child. Like, I'm doing the best I can. Yeah. And then I'm going to pay for all the therapy. That's all I can give you. Well, it's like I'm going to do my best job, and then I want you to go talk to somebody about it because I'm going to screw up somewhere. And so I want you to feel supported. That's my mission.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things too where it's like whenever you try to, do some work on yourself and you realize like, okay, whatever conflicts, me and my parent had, they were doing the best they could with the tools that they had.
Right.
And whenever you make that realization, it's a little sad, like this is all that they had to work with because I have so much more. But I think it's every parent's, you know, every parent's dream that, their child grows up having better tools, whether financially,
Sure. Yeah.
mentally, emotionally. And so, my mom died in March of 2020, like right as the pandemic hit. She didn't die of COVID. She died of cancer. But, I honestly believe that she was a very anxious woman, and that anxiety, like the way that she dealt with things, especially like as a kid, like as a 10-year-old, you saw her coping skills. Like she was teaching you, this is how you cope. This is how an adult copes. And so that's all I knew for a long time. It's like, you got to make sure everything's perfect, and you got to make sure that, everybody's taken care of. And it leads you to this anxious place, which is, it's not very fun to be in. But, whenever, and I'll just say, the reason why we moved was because, my dad died when I was 3. And so it was just my mom. And we were pretty poor, and, at the time, I have a brother and 2 sisters, and my older brother and older sister are 10 and 11 years older than me. And so that's whenever I was 10, they were already 19 and 20. And so it still felt like I was the only child. And because they were off doing their own life, And so my mom at the time, we decided to move because she basically didn't have any help. Like it was just her, working 2-3 jobs trying to take care.
So y'all had family there?
Yeah. And so her mom lived there. My grandma lived there. And so it just all kind of came to head where I think she just could not afford to do it on her own anymore. And so when we moved in with my grandma for a while, and, it was just so discombobulating, like I said. And it was one of those times where it's just like, why are we doing this? It's like, I was feeling pretty miserable there. It was a small house. It was, at the time, you like you said, you remember me making you laugh.
Right.
That was my mechanism to getting people to like me.
Sure.
And so, actually, I just remembered something.
Okay.
So right before I moved, I remember signing up to be on a sports team or something like that. When we were going to go into 6th grade, middle school. And I remember signing up for football or something like that. And I remember being so relieved that I did not have to do it, because I was doing it because I thought that it was what boys did.
Right.
And I just remember I remember being relieved about that. And, and whenever I moved, I ended up joining band and ended up being kind of like a saxophone superstar, which is weird.
Do you still play the saxophone?
I don't, but the last time I picked one up was a year and a half ago, and I can actually still play it.
Oh my God. I wish I would have known that. I totally would have had you bring a saxophone.
I mean, it's just one of those things you just don't forget to do. But yeah, I ended up being and throughout high school, I ended up being the drum major for the band. I ended up making, ones at state, playing solos and stuff like that, for UIL. And it was
okay.
Yeah, it was
okay. Y'all don't know about this, but me and Dino are writing down things that we think that the other doesn't know about each other. I just thought of one.
Oh, and so I guess my way out of feeling like not that fat kid or at that time, I was trying to figure out what I knew I was different at the time. I just didn't know what to call it.
Mhm.
And I think whenever you and I, were friends, I knew that there was something just not, I don't want to say like normal, but it's like all these boys have little crushes on girls and I don't. And and I remember having crushes on boys, but I didn't know that was what it was called.
Did you know that's what it was?
No.
Okay. So cliffhanger. we're gonna take a break from that because we'll come back to that subject. Because I just think it'd be fun. And also, I really didn't get a chance to introduce Dino, or just I don't even know what the fuck you do. So you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Give me a list of the jobs that you have had, that you roughly can remember from your first one to now. Just tell me things that you've done. Because I don't these are things I don't know about you.
Yeah. In the past, well, I've worked at Whataburger.
Nice.
Love
Whataburger. Did you see this? Did you see the sign?
I did see the sign. Yeah. That was probably
Whataburger. You can donate something too. I mean, no, don't be shy.
That was probably whenever I was 17 or something like that, 16, 17. And after that, I've done in the 90s, whenever I was 19, 20, I was a manager for Spencer Gifts.
Nice.
Yeah. It's so weird, when I think back on it. But oddly enough, my career path ended up being in the financial field in accounting.
That's not too far. I mean, did you run the drawers at Spencer's?
Oh yeah, that's
okay.
kind of, and it's various credit unions I worked for.
Yeah, okay, but come on,
and
man.
So
do you like math?
No, I hate it.
Oh,
that's why there's Excel spreadsheets.
So what do you like? What do you like about your job? What do you do? What do you like about? Okay, so what do you do right now?
So I work for a software as a service company, a SaaS company.
Okay.
And I
don't know what that is.
Well.
What's a SaaS company?
So it stands for software as a service. And so it's basically a software company.
Okay.
But we just call it SaaS.
Okay.
So SaaS.
Oh, okay.
And so
I thought you meant SaaS.
No, not that kind of SaaS.
Not a kind of SaaS.
I can give you that later.
Yeah, that's not a work. Not a
work. And so currently I do work for a software company, and I am their accounts receivable team lead, which is basically, it's part of the thing. I'll just say it's a managerial position, but I don't believe in I don't know. Sometimes I downplay my worth in titles, it's
Mm-hmm.
So I just say team lead, but I manage a team in Russia, and
that's cool.
It's pretty cool. It pays.
Do you speak
quite
Russian?
well? No, hell no.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I had to ask. You know what I mean?
No, but I'm very curious about their whole, their culture. So it's been kind of interesting.
Okay. I'm making this promise on the pod. Do you want to go to Russia with me?
What?
So if anybody knows me, they know Tom, and we've talked about Tom, and Tom's kind of my mentor.
Yeah.
We keep talking about him, and eventually I'm going to bring him on the podcast.
Yeah.
But his business deals with Russia, so he goes twice a year.
We're at St. Petersburg,
all
Moscow.
over, yeah. So I don't know if you want to take a trip to Russia with me and Tom, but now there's video evidence. So we might be taking a trip to Russia if you want to go.
That could be actually interesting.
Okay, we just mental note.
Yeah,
drop that in. Okay, so your team is in Russia.
Yeah, and so, but I report to people here in the U.S. But yeah, it's I really enjoy the company and the culture, and I'm a good fit. And
you like your job?
I do.
So hey. That's all I need.
I really do.
The means fit the ends. Do you make enough money to take care of yourself?
Oh yeah.
Okay. See, so yeah,
absolutely.
So then, hey, what else do you want, man?
I mean, there's a lot of wants, but
live your life. Hey.
Yeah, I one good thing is one important thing that I kind of look for is in a company is to just make sure, and it's a tired it's tired that people say this, but work-life balance.
No. I
And
think
it's
that's
yeah, and
that's what
it's
hey, that's what this whole shindig's about, man. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, just like it offers me a good work-life balance. I, work through the pandemic remotely and, that kind of thing. So yeah, no, I love what I do, and it's impressive that I don't have a college degree.
You know, I okay. Mm, since I have a child,
Mm,
I think a college degree is important if that's what you want to do. But like forcing somebody a round peg in a square hole,
yeah,
it just ain't gonna work. You'd be better off. Like I think about a lot if my daughter is her mom is a really good pianist.
yeah,
If she's talented enough to play piano, do we forego college? What do we do? And I just want to help make the best decision that I think we can make right then.
yeah.
And if right then it's college, be like, hey, I think you could do both or whatever, but like, I don't want to pigeonhole her into the idea of she has to do college.
Yeah, I think that, after I graduated high school, it was one of those things where it's just like, you have to go to college if you want to be somebody.
Well, that was that generation though, too, I think,
Yeah,
right?
it's like 1994.
Did your mom go to college?
No,
So she obviously wanted you to go to college,
correct.
right? So,
And it was like, here was the thing. It was just kind of like, so I got accepted to the University of Texas after I graduated, and I was like, yes, this is where I wanted to go. And we just couldn't afford it.
fuck, man.
And it was crappy to feel that, because it was like whenever, you're 18.
It's like when you find out Santa Claus isn't real.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's just like one of those things where it's just like you feel like I was considered smart in high school, and graduated top what? I think it was like I was like 17 out of like 250 or something like that.
Bro, I was, God, what was I? I was 20. No, that's not. There was only 82, and I was not in the top.
It was that small?
Yeah, like that graduating,
Wow.
that our graduate would have been our graduating class was only 82 people.
Huh.
And I was in like in the 30s or so. I was way down there.
Yeah. No, I remember graduating pretty high up there and graduated with honors, and so I was always the smart dude, And oddly enough, I remember in high school that I got voted most talented for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why.
How were you in like one act play? Like, did you?
Mainly because of people knew that I could sing.
Oh, I kind of forgot about that. But I think back like whenever like we were kids, like when you would sing like funny songs or like cartoons we were watching. Am I making that up?
I don't know.
It feels like it because I feel like in my head it's just like like you would make like funny noises. I don't know, but I don't know. When you said I could sing, it hit something like I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago, people. It's a long.
Yeah, I remember like, I don't know. I do remember being funny all the time.
You?
Yeah.
Or me?
Me.
You're like, I remember being funny all the time. Like,
I was funny all the time.
No, I mean, you really were. Like, you really were. I think probably at a really even young age, I probably admired your willingness to kind of, I don't want to say do anything for a joke, but I really, because I was not that kind of person.
Yeah.
And maybe that outwardness that you had, I was kind of like, wow, like this guy's like doing that. How does he do that? You know what I mean?
Well, it was more out of a defense mechanism.
Sure. But I didn't see it that, I didn't know it that way. You know what I mean? I was looking at it as like a superpower probably. Because I just wasn't that comfortable with being myself.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know that you're saying you weren't either, but like it appeared to me that you were.
Yeah.
It was like, well, wow, he is being himself.
Yeah. And that was the weird thing was like, I kind of see that as a theme throughout my entire life.
Sure.
Where it's like, it's like, okay, you're going to be funny. You're going to be, you can sing to people. You can, do all, just be witty
Yeah.
and, do all these things. And it's like the one thing that I just kind of wanted to feel like is just like, you know, acceptance in this weird way where,
Mhm.
and so like,
I like how we're walking right back into this. Anyways, go ahead.
So I think like part of it is just kind of like, I've always felt like a chameleon where in any social group, I can fit in really easily by just doing one of these defense mechanism things, whether it be funny or just kind of like, I don't know, just and I get it. Like I understand why I do it. It's because I want to be accepted, and two, I don't want to be left out. And not only that, it's just like I even back then as a kid, I remember. I guess I remember the most like feeling like there's something wrong with me. What is it? And I didn't want people to find out that something was wrong with
Right.
me.
So, okay. So, uh, okay. So we're coming. We're back. Like we took that little detour, and now we're back on the road. Okay. So, Dino is gay. We'll just cut
Yeah.
to the chase, right? And so, when I thought about the dynamic of that of the
Yeah.
person that I knew at 10, and then this adult, and how different that is,
Yeah.
right? My first question it led me to was like, when did you know? When did you know? And like you said, like I was feeling these things and blah blah blah. So kind of, I don't know, kind of describe that. So maybe if someone listening is feeling those things, that they can understand. Like, yeah, man, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel these things. Like this is maybe what my experience was, and maybe that speaks to somebody.
Yeah. I think like a lot of people find it difficult to talk about like children and sexuality. And for me, my experience was that, especially like in small town Texas,
Yeah.
you don't want to give out too much information because somebody's going to say something.
Right.
And I remember, even the town that we moved to was, small. It was like 10,000 people. And I just remember that experience of being like, okay, you see these girls and like these boys, like, flirting and the way kids flirt.
Mhm.
And I never wanted to do that.
So
Like,
from the very jump,
yeah,
it never really felt normal.
no. And I knew,
But you
like,
didn't. I mean, you obviously didn't know why at that point.
no,
Yeah.
but I didn't know at that point. But it was like, for me, it's like, aside from you, like I hung out with other boys too,
Right.
and I was like,
I mean, I wasn't the only friend. What the?
no, you weren't.
Hey, in my memory, I was your only. Like you're the only friend I had. Like, anyway, go ahead.
That's not true.
No, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I'm trying to derail
it's
this.
like, no, I just remember like I couldn't tell if I had a crush on boys that were my friend or if I thought that they were cute but I just know like something along that wavelength
Mhm.
where it was just like, I don't want to say attraction because I don't think that's what it was. It was just like a different kind of connection than I guess like I would have with a girl.
Right.
And I knew like girls that,
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to do with that.
Right.
But I wanted to be around boys all the time.
Right.
Because I felt more comfortable in that way. And so, yeah, I just kind of felt like that was different. And I felt like even you, like, because you were, girls liked you.
I didn't
you
feel
were,
that. I didn't
you
feel that
were
way.
a cute kid.
But I didn't feel that way, and isn't that crazy? Like I didn't.
Really?
No. I feel like no girl liked me.
Really?
Yes. Like, hey, you weren't the only one like throwing up like facades. You're not the only kid out there like not being able to know how to cope with shit.
Yeah, no, I always thought that. Like, that's kind of like, and it's weird whenever you think about it, because like as kids, you're like, you don't really think like you're playing this game of like your presentation, like how you present yourself.
It's very raw.
Yeah.
Like when I see kids interact, like, so now they have my daughter and we go to these like play places
Yeah.
and you see kids like interact. I'm like, ah, it's beautiful and
Yeah.
it's weird and it's strange. And it's like, they're a lot of times they're being very real
Yeah.
about, and it's like, it's very cut and dry, but like, if you do that with an adult, they would like lose their mind, you
Yeah,
know?
because they're more black and white and they have no inhibition about what's being said.
Yeah.
You know, but I think like around that age of like 9, 10, you know, things are happening and you're very aware of your environment, and you know the good and the bad things that are happening, but you just don't know what to do with it yet.
Sure. So,
And
so at what point does it go from like kind of having these feelings
mhm.
to like maybe true recognition that like I am like different, or like I was telling somebody like I don't remember knowing gay people when I was a kid.
Little did you know.
Well, no, but I'm just saying like, you know, that like, well, that wasn't, I don't know if it wasn't I don't know what this, I just don't, because like I didn't reckon, you know, it would now obviously be different, but like it just at that time, there probably, I guess there weren't a lot of openly gay people. Would that
Yeah.
be fair to say? This is
I
like
mean,
this is
yeah.
1986.
Yeah, I would definitely say like our representation on TV was always kind of like the sissy, or you know, like do you remember Three's Company?
Yes.
Remember Jack
Yeah.
and how he had to fake being gay in order to stay with the 2 girls that
Yes,
he was
yes, yes,
living
yes,
with,
yes, yes,
and he would occasionally do like the flamboyant, like you know, like that was representation.
Right.
Or the guy on Airplane, the movie.
Yes.
Where he's
Yeah,
you know, where Harold is getting larger. You know?
Yeah.
That's the kind of representation that I grew up with.
Right.
And is and you know, living, like I said, in small town Texas, you're a man.
Right.
You're supposed to be a man.
And you're Hispanic.
Yeah. But mainly the man thing was like, you have to be a man and you can't be like that. And so, meanwhile, I would go over like, so you know, my mom had a friend and she had a daughter that was, I don't know, like 8 or something like that. And she would have like these dolls and I would go play dolls with her.
Uh-huh.
And so like that felt okay. And, you know, it just kind of felt right. I didn't feel like I was, and she didn't even judge me for it either. You know, like I didn't feel judged about that, but it was fun to me. And I knew that other boys wouldn't do that. And so it was like little hints here and there, but it almost felt a little shameful. I'll be honest about that. You know, there was other things that were going on while I don't even know how raw you want me to get, but
Hey, this is you can do whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with, man.
So at that time, that you knew me, especially like right before I left, for the 2 years prior, I was being molested.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Dang.
And it was with my neighbor. And because at that time we lived in like this 4-plex apartments, and you know, it was like, or maybe it was 1, 2. Yeah, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. And we lived on the top floor of one apartment, and below, you know, sometimes my mom would leave me with that woman because they were friends.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
Was that on your list?
No.
Man. Okay. Anyways, so she would leave you with this woman.
Yeah, and her son. And
now, was he gay?
I don't know.
Or you?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say no, but maybe yes, and I'll go into that momentarily.
Okay.
So, you know, so for like 2 years, you know, this was going on, and maybe it was like 3. I think it was like 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10, around there. It was a long time, and I remember, you know, she would even let me stay there overnight. And I remember specifically one night, I just said, I can't stay here because he was starting with me, like sleep in the same bed with him and everything. And I was like, I have to go. And I remember him being terrified because he thought I was going to go say something, and I never did. So yeah, it's a huge thing,
Yeah.
that's like, so it was like me being the fat kid, me being molested, me being gay, me being, it was like all this host of things that a kid should not be going through,
Yeah,
you know?
most definitely.
And not only that, on top of that, because it was, just my mom, and essentially, my brother and sister were old enough to kind of be on their own. My mom didn't have, my father there anymore. So she was kind of like telling me all of these adult things that were happening, and we're not going to have enough money. I'm going to pay the bills, and like parentifying her child on top of that.
Yeah.
And so it was just like this whole host of things that I could go back now and view it as that. But at the time, my God, it was so confusing as fuck,
Yeah.
And so like, in order for me to be able to function as a kid, I had to be funny.
I mean, good thing you're funny. I'm just kidding.
That
was kind of horrible. Like, but I mean, in all honesty, like, I mean, like, it's cool to be fun. Like, you're funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that. I remember you being funny.
Yeah, but it, like when you look back at it, it's like, God, you're really suffering, and just, when we talk about like, are we still that same kid, that same 10-year-old?
Yeah,
I'd like to believe
you win. You win. Like, you're not like you're not yeah. And not knowing all that, I had a lens that I was looking through it, right?
Yeah.
But you're looking through this other lens, and because nobody really knows this, but before we started, he was like, "Nah, what not to say," and I was just like, "Well, what do you know?" And so yes, you win. You're correct.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's one of those things where I look back and realize that even though like I had, clothes, I had food, I had shelter, nobody was really taking care of that kid,
Yeah.
And, back in the 80s, there was the whole latchkey thing,
Yeah.
where, you basically let yourself into your house,
Yep.
take care of yourself, throw stuff in the microwave or whatever at the
Yep.
time, and wait for your parents to come home.
Yep.
And, you add that extra layer on top of it. It's just this shitty lasagna as a 10-year-old, where it's just like, my God, this is terrible, whenever you stand back and take a 10,000-foot view of it. But, I've learned that it's okay to still feel like you're that 10-year-old. But the adult Dino has to be able to tell that kid, it's okay. I'm protecting you. And that's been a really difficult lesson to learn, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, we're not the same kid.
But you're still funny.
I'd like to think so.
I mean, I think so.
But yeah, it's it's weird because like as a kid, you don't see all that. You don't see the pain and whatever that kid is going through. And I'm sure you went through stuff too, maybe not as tragic.
Okay, the best I can do is a paper towel. Would that be
No,
okay?
you're fine. You're
No,
fine. You're
no,
good. You're good. You don't have to.
I don't have like a tissue.
Well, I didn't expect to cry.
Hey,
either.
it's a rag show. It's a rag show. We're not real super fancy.
I know.
So,
I told you I was going to treat this like therapy, and apparently I did.
Hey,
So
I think that I think it's great. I think people appreciate people being authentic.
well,
You know what I mean? And like when I'm gonna go out and assume that you are really right with yourself,
yeah,
because even though like stories make you like tear up and thoughts make you tear up, stuff like that, it's like the fact that you're telling it to all 14 people that listen to my podcast is like, it means you process some stuff around it.
yeah,
And I think it only it only helps you, and it really only
Yeah.
helps other people too.
I think that there's a sense of relief whenever you're able to tell stories like that.
Mhm.
Because most people will go their entire lives holding all that in, you know?
I'm sure your mom probably did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm fairly certain that there were stories that she did not tell us,
Sure.
and I didn't tell her.
Sure.
And, part of that is like, whenever I said that we had a complicated relationship, it's because, it's a lot of that had to be with like, first off, she was cool with me being gay, I remember
That's a plus.
That's definitely a plus.
So just I feel like I'm gonna mess this up. Like do you have a time when you came out? Do you remember how old you were when you
it was like whenever I could verbalize,
yeah,
like
you
what
could
it
verbalize
was.
out loud? Yeah.
I think I was like 14
Okay.
or 15, which back then was like, it was the 90s.
Yeah.
It was like 1990. I had just gotten into
High school.
school.
Yeah.
And so like, back then it was like, I remember the shows of the time where it was like Sally Jesse Raphael and Jenny Jones and Donahue. And you started seeing like this change in culture where they were having, people that were, affected by HIV, or you would see like more gay representation. And it may have been like not kosher representation as compared to today's standards,
Right.
but being able to start that conversation and say like, oh, this is what it is, and it's okay to be that way. And I remember distinctly like kind of testing the waters out
With your mom?
yeah. And
So
like,
okay. I want to just kind of get, when did you officially tell her? At that time? Like,
no, I didn't officially tell her till I was 17.
okay. So
I
now
told-
fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Now fill in the
So
gaps.
I, with everybody else, I told like at school, I was like, I'm gay. And they were like,
Man.
yeah, we know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Hey, when you're in Texas and that's the reaction that you get,
Yeah.
I feel like am I out of bounds to say that's a very
No.
good reaction in Texas and the way that the South and everything can be, right?
Yeah. And I think like too, it's like that time. Like
And the time.
Yeah. Our generation was kind of like the generation that was starting to be okay with things that were outside of normal society.
Yeah.
Because
just barely.
Yeah. And
but
and
it was pushed.
Yeah, and even today we still have that mentality of like kind of being the rebels. It's like, you're not going to tell me what to do, and that's kind of like Gen X in
Right.
a sense. And so like, with gay culture, goth culture, punk culture, all those kinds of things started coming to the forefront as rebellion to society and your parents. And so at that time, I remember seeing, like I said, all this representation on TV, and then seeing my friends were cool with it. And, at the time, we would always say, well, I'm bi. And it's
Right.
like, no, you're not. It's like, no. and so like, but I remember distinctly watching Donahue, and my mom, me and her were watching it, and there was a gay dude on there talking about something, and don't remember. but she set out something like, ugh, something like that. And I was like, well, what if I ended up being gay? She's like, you better not. And I was like, what do you mean you better not? Like, how could you stop somebody from being gay? And she's like, I just wouldn't like it. And I was like, okay. And 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 I didn't tell her until like my senior year, and I remember having that discussion with her and saying like, look, I'm gay. I was like, I know like I held it back from telling you, but I need you to know that because it's me, And she's like, well, I didn't raise you to be gay. And I'm like, how do you, it's not like clown college where you go in and like, hey, I'm gay. It's like, I'm a clown,
I didn't raise you to be a gay person.
And it's like, I was like, yeah, you didn't raise me to be gay.
You raised me to be a good person.
Yeah.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah. And she's heavily Catholic and I, she's like, I know that, God's against this. And she's like, but I'm still going to love you. And that's all I needed to hear from her, But, in a weird way, it's kind of like, and it was probably me, like feeling self-conscious, but the whole time, like she knew, I was married. She met my husband at the time. And, she was really accepting of that. But it always irked me that I kept thinking that she was judging me in some way, like she still wasn't okay with it. And I think like that was all me, It's like doubting myself and just feeling like I disappointed her in some way. Because my brother didn't have a kid and I'm not gonna have children. My sisters had children, but she wanted one
Lineage.
of the men to carry on the name, and the name stops with me, essentially, and I think that there's always been that guilt, associated with that, because the way that I put it this way is kind of weird, but my dad has been a ghost in my life this whole time. It's always stories about like what he did, all the good stuff, and never the bad things. And so it's weird whenever you have to live up to a ghost.
You've never met him?
No.
Okay.
Well, I obviously did, but I was 3.
Yeah,
and I don't remember,
I guess, I guess in the sense of like you have no relationship with him now.
No.
Is he alive?
No, he's dead.
Okay.
He's been
So
dead
obviously
since
you
he was
didn't meet him
3.
before he. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he died when you were 3?
Yeah.
Did you say that earlier?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Anyways. But okay, so like, yeah, but like, so like you have stories like from the family of what went on at that time.
And it's like, there's obviously no bad, nobody ever wants to say bad things about somebody that's dead.
Sure.
And so like, there's always like this thing of like trying to live up to that person, like I remember being always told like, well, your dad wouldn't have approved of that. And I remember one day specifically saying, well, he's dead, so I guess I don't have to live up to it. And it's weird, the pressure that family puts on you,
I think all of that is true.
Mm-hmm.
I think and I think a lot of that happens in different ways in different families, but there's a lot of that dynamic. And I think the best thing you could do is just recognize it.
Yeah.
Recognize what it is, recognize what's happening, try to understand what's happening, be good with what's good in those relationships, and try to not put a lot of weight into what's dysfunctional, because everybody's going to have it.
Yeah,
right?
No, I get that, but it's just kind of like that level of like feeling so down on yourself all the time, it bleeds into your adulthood.
Well, I mean, and let's be fair. I think we were gonna touch on this before.
Yeah.
My childhood and how I grew up and my traumas and that I did and didn't have, they were mine, and that's what they were. And yours, from my seat, being more unfortunate, but they were yours.
Yes.
And so, I don't in my view, obviously, I feel for you a lot more because I feel like yours are worse. But I only know my
Mm,
own, and I can
yeah,
only compare my own to yours, and like how hard it was for me, how hard that must be for you.
yeah,
And not a comparison of like yours is worse or better, of like just trying to have empathy around how hard that must have been
yeah,
for you. And so your experiences and what you do shape you.
yeah,
But remember, if your shit feels heavier, somebody else's shit feels heavier than them too. Like, I mean,
absolutely.
everybody feels the weight of their load, no matter how horrible it could possibly be on one
Yeah.
end, you know?
Yeah, and that's the one thing about like 35 years is that you learn that, you know, you can't change the situation. You can only change how you feel about it,
So,
you know? And, I've worked pretty hard in trying to help myself feel a certain way, where, all of those traumas, all of that bad shit that happened, you know, is not, it's recognized, but I'm not going to let it suffocate me. If that makes sense.
mm, it's like, uh, it's it's hard to be scared of your demons when you know what they are.
Yeah.
Like when you go, okay, this is it. This is the group. These are my
Mhm.
group of demons, and I have to like do the things that make them keep them at bay,
Yeah.
so that I can enjoy the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Making that distinction, recognize, because the longer you go in your life, kind of just ignoring them,
Yeah.
they just follow you. Like you're not going to get
Yeah.
rid of them, but you can contain them. You can keep them off to the side. You can keep them at bay. You can set a boundary around them.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe a couple of them give up and they're just like, I'm out of here.
Well, it's not only that, it's kind of like, yeah, I believe Socrates said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, like, you know, even if you get on a ship and you go far away, you travel a far distance, if you're still feeling, your sense of depression and malaise and melancholy, and you take it with you,
Is you?
it's still you.
Yeah,
You can't run away from it.
yeah.
The only thing you can do is just kind of have a seat and have a sit down talk. And I honestly have talks with my anxiety, and
I would say I do kind of in a similar way. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Uh,
where it's like, you actually sit there and say like, what are you trying to do here?
mhm,
What's the plan here? And
right.
it's like, I got this. I get you're trying to protect me from something,
Yeah.
but just let me take a stab at this first.
I always I have this kind of thing where I say, like, a lot of times when people get into relationships, like the first like 6 months, you're meeting their representative. You know what I mean? Not
Yes.
really, not meeting the real person, you're meeting the representative.
Yeah.
And the representative is also the guy that's in charge of anxiety and
Yeah.
making people laugh. He's also like, it's this other part of you that you kind
Yeah.
of create as a protective shell, right?
Yeah.
And in my experience, and I'm gonna assume that the more you become friends with that
Yeah.
and you like get up right next to it and kind of lean into it of like what both sides of who you really are and then the person you kind of your representative is, you get to a more balanced part of yourself.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Yin and yang,
Yeah,
essentially.
essentially. Yes.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that's fair to say. But it's like I don't know how many people actually do that kind of work.
It's incredibly hard. It's
Yeah.
incredibly hard. And I just want to say I commend you for for doing that. Like
Thanks.
uh it would be really easy with everything that the things that happened to you to just like fuck it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you really leaned into like a lot of stuff. And just the fact that you can like talk about it and be open about it that says so much. And
Yeah.
so
I,
you should be really proud.
thanks. And I think like a lot of people, you know, kind of tiptoe around their own like because it's a violence against a child. You know, that's what it is.
Do you think that's why your mom moved y'all? Do you think it had anything to do with it?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think she had any idea?
No, no, she did not have an idea about it at all. I'm
Did you tell her
pretty-
at one point?
No, I never did. In fact, the only person that knows in my family is my younger sister. Only
Well,
because I
and the
told
14
her.
people that are listening right now.
Well, yeah, obviously. It's I'm going to pretend they don't exist right now, but it's like.
So, do you wish you would have told her? Did you did you have an opportunity? You had an opportunity to tell her, obviously,
yeah.
right? I mean, because like
Yeah.
she was alive for a good long period of your life, right? So
Yeah.
you definitely had an opportunity to tell her.
Yeah.
But like, do you wish you?
No.
Do you want to say why?
So when I say complicated relationship,
And we don't have to go in real depth about it.
No. I just briefly, like, so my mom had a caretaking mentality where she wanted to make sure that all of us are taken care of and don't hurt anybody's feelings, because that's part of taking care of them, and just make sure everything is okay with them. And meanwhile, she's neglecting herself. Right. And
a lot of people do that, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't realize they're doing it, by the way.
I am a caretaker as well.
Yeah.
I learned it from her.
But more specifically, probably like an empath, right?
Well, I would say
a
little bit empathic.
Yeah.
But I think part of that was like, okay, don't upset her. You know, you take it on the chin and just don't say anything, and you know, take the secret with you. Don't burden anybody. And that's heavy for a kid to hold in.
That is heavy for anyone to hold.
I will say
anyone, like a kid, an adult, like anyone to hold that is heavy.
Yeah. And I will say this, that's I left that summer. I remember summer of 1986 is when we left. But before we left, I remember seeing him. I remember seeing my abuser. And I was with a friend. And
kicked his fucking ass.
No.
Man.
He saw me, and I didn't realize that he lived there. And he saw me walking past the street, and he was like, "Hey, you want to come in?" I was like, "Absolutely not." And that was the first time where I actually kind of stood up for myself in a sense, because he had no power over me. And, you know, as social media, you're going to get social media curious and start looking up people. I found him.
And then you kicked his ass.
No.
Oh.
I sent him a message. And the only thing I just asked him was, I just want to know why you did that to me. I never got a response, and I don't expect to ever get a response. But I do know, and this, I do know that he was married with kids, and his wife suffered a tragic car accident. So I don't wish harm on anyone, you know, and I feel sorry that happened to him. But it's hard to feel empathy for someone that can do that. You know what I mean? And that makes me feel bad, because I don't feel bad. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so sometimes I actually think about that, and I'm like, God, why do you feel like that? And I feel like it's more of like a feeling of revenge in this weird way, you know, like I got revenge, but I didn't, you know, but it's kind of like, it's this weird way of like, does one trauma, you know, balance out another for somebody else, you know? So yeah, those are pretty dark thoughts to think about, you know, and it makes me feel like, you know, I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in any of that stuff, but it's like,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just kind of feel like, honestly, it made me feel bad for myself for thinking those dark thoughts. And like, it's like, don't lose yourself in so much anger, you know? Otherwise, he still has control.
Yeah, like you have to move past whatever's tragic to you.
Yeah.
You know, like your parent passes, abuse. You 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 have to work to push past.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole life to live.
Yeah.
And don't let your whole life just get away because you just stay stuck in one place.
Yeah. And I obviously know that now, you know.
But so okay, let me ask you this. Do you sometimes go, and I hope that this, I don't want this to sound like insensitive. Maybe, I think you'll know what I'm saying.
Just say
like, do you wish you would have like figured this out faster? Like you could have gotten to this place, this happier place faster, or peace with it faster, or the level of peace that you have now don't have to be complete, but like, do you wish you would have maybe gone to therapy sooner or processed things sooner because you feel better about the place you are right now versus where you were?
I mean, that's always hard to, you know, I went to therapy when I went to therapy, and
That's just what it is.
what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it was, you don't realize, like, whenever you decide to do something like that and really focus in on like
what's really going on.
Yeah, like seeking counseling for, like, you know, initially when I started seeing a therapist, my marriage was coming to an end. And, you know, and actually I'd started seeing it before because
your marriage was coming to an end.
Because my marriage was starting to come to an end, and it just took me a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And, you know, you realize like all these little bubbles start floating to the surface until it just becomes this unmanageable geyser, you know? And I think like part of working through that process, just kind of like, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt pretty bad.
Well, I mean, we're literally going to talk about the shittiest parts of yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's
not fun.
No, it's not fun at all. And it's like,
or the things you're the most scared of, the things you're most scared of in the world, like mentally, we're going to talk about those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's, you know, and it's funny because like as soon as you think you get it, nope, there's something else hiding in the corner. There's something else, you know, it's like, it's kind of like that, that cup game where like there's a ball and you like kind of like move it around and you're like, oh, surely it's under this cup. Right. And you're like, nope, it's not there. Try again, you know?
Yeah.
And so you're always chasing this ball under this cup that just keeps moving and you're never going to find it.
Right.
You know? And even whenever you do find it, it's quickly taken away.
Yeah.
You know? And more cups are added, you know, to the mix.
You know, thinking that you're going to take care of your problems tomorrow. Yeah. Hey, surprise. There's just going to be more problems tomorrow.
Yes.
So you better learn how to start sifting through problems and kind of working through things. Yeah. Because life is there's always going to be something.
Right.
Like, unless you just stay at home, you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything, don't talk to anybody, like you're just in your house. And even in your house, different things are going to happen on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to like adjust. And it's kind of like learning to swim, I would say, or, you know.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, you know, at the very beginning of this pandemic, I thought that I was so prepared to be alone and so prepared to, it's like, I've worked through so much stuff in therapy that I've got this. Cause like, that's whenever you start seeing like an epidemic of loneliness.
Right.
And, you know, no human contact. And I thought that I was made for it now. And so like,
well, you don't know what it's like to be alone.
Yeah.
Until you're like alone.
Yeah.
Look at Tom Hanks on Castaway.
That's true.
He thought he knew how to be alone, but that guy did not know how to be alone.
Yeah. And
drove himself crazy.
And the weird thing too is like as I've gotten older, the lonelier that feeling has gotten. So
and FYI, I think that is 100% true. Like, because a lot of my clients are older,
Yeah.
and as they get older, the thing that they struggle with the most is depression, the
Yeah.
mental part of getting older. So I think
Yeah.
that's a very normal thing, but you got to
Yeah.
be really aware of it, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I'll do that. I'll go put myself out there. And I'd like to think that, I'm a extroverted introvert where it's like I do
Yeah.
well in social settings, but ultimately I just kind of want to be left alone.
Right.
I'm happier whenever I'm left alone. And I realize, like, we're going into 2 years of like coronavirus, coming February. And I realize that none of that has changed for me, essentially. And it's sad, so it's kind of like, what do you do? Um, and, a lot of it is like me trying to do the right thing with like staying away from people and making sure, that kind of thing. But it's also like before the pandemic, I was living that life anyway. And so I realized like, and it's something that I'm kind of working on currently where it's like that's why I'm here, meeting with
Right.
you. It's
Oh,
like,
so like
you
when I
know.
asked you to go to Russia, you were like, "No, fuck that. I'm not going to Russia."
I mean,
Like I didn't see like in that moment where I said, "Hey, let's go to Russia." Like I didn't realize you're like, "Man, I ain't leaving my house. What are you talking about?"
well, there's also the other factor of like Russia doesn't have a good history with gay people
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part too.
and brown people.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Mm. So, but at
mm,
the same time, it's kind of like I actually do know people in Russia, and it's one of those things where I would feel like I could be comfortable,
yeah.
doing something like that. But yeah, it's been difficult, and I will say this: it started happening when I quit drinking.
The depression.
No, the noticing like people leaving your life, you know?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, you
so,
made a change, bro. Not everybody's
yeah.
gonna stay.
No, and that's like,
When you're bettering your like, hey, this is true or not.
yeah,
When you're on this journey of bettering yourself,
yeah,
you're gonna lose some folks. Okay,
yeah,
it's just that's the way it is. And like if you don't, lucky you.
yeah,
But a lot of people do, and it's really sometimes people get stuck in that moment, right, where they lose someone that was crucial to them in their life,
yeah,
and they're like, "Well, I can't move on from this moment." But you got to understand, like, there's a whole bunch of other stuff happening over here. That's just
yeah.
one part of the puzzle. Somebody eventually replace that, and if they're supposed to meant to stay, they'll stay, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that too, and just kind of like just realizing like, so, at one point it was kind of like, especially in my 30s, where it was like, yeah, I'm gonna go party
Yeah,
every night, hell, in my 20s I was doing that. Um, and especially like here in Austin, I had a good group of friends. We were all just kind of like, it was early 2000s ish, and, I stopped drinking whenever I was like 39 or something like that. So it's been about 5, 6 years.
hmm
And I stopped going out to bars because they weren't fun. Like,
yeah, yeah,
what's the point?
yeah.
Um,
Well, and then you got to deal with drunk people.
oh, that's the worst.
Yeah,
And so,
there's nothing more horrible than being sober around a bunch of drunk people.
this is true.
I mean, you
Uh,
really have to lean into it. Like it's a rough one.
And to make it matters worse is like, being around like going to gay bars
hmm
and being around drunk gay people
hmm
is a different scenario possibly because I was one of those drunk gay people and
Okay,
I
so
was
wait. When you say I was one of those drunk gay people, what does that mean?
it means that sometimes we're more loose-lipped and
Like verbally, it's what they say and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like being very crass and hard, or
Yeah.
okay,
And I will say this, the reason why I quit drinking was because I went out to a bar. I would always get smashed, like completely smashed. And I would find myself saying the most cruelest things to absolute strangers. And I realized that that was a reflection of myself, you know, in a sense. And it's kind of like, I remember waking up the next morning and just, I don't even remember what I said, but I do remember the guy's reaction to what I said. He's like, that was so mean. Why would you say that to me?
Do you know why you did it?
No, because
Do
I
you
was
know why you
just,
did right now? Do you know why you did it?
no, I don't even know like what the whole situation was, but I do remember that reaction.
I if you know if I if I'm playing therapist, I would say, you know, mm, that the fact that you love men,
Yeah,
right? But you were
sometimes.
well, yeah, everybody loves men sometimes. Uh, but you were abused by a man.
Mm,
That's a real I mean, like that it kind of and so there's a lot of anger there and like just I mean like and I'm assuming that probably a combination of quitting drinking and then you doing some sort of
yeah.
therapy probably really solidified a lot of that, right? Like of,
The way that I see it is that it was one of those things where it was just, now that I think about it, why I may have said it, I think that it was more of like, why don't you like me? Why don't you love me?
yeah.
And it's just like, well, if you're not going to love me, I'm just going to be the most horrible, dickish person I can be. Keep you away.
So ultimately it was a defense.
Yeah.
You're being defensive.
Yeah. And, you know, like when I grew up, like, well, not grew up, but like, you know, after high school and stuff like that, I had moved to Dallas and, you know, I had a stint in Salt Lake City at one point, like when I was 18. And, you know, but when I moved to Dallas, I was like 19, 20. And I ended up getting into, this is on one of the three things that I wrote down.
Okay.
I ended up getting into meth.
What?
Yeah. It was the style at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, like it was this messy, gross road for at least 3 years.
Man.
Um,
Okay. Well, I mean,
you don't know me, huh?
I don't. But I mean, but like that's just like you know, in a very simple way. What if we had remained friends?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like like the like the whole like butterfly effect
Yeah.
thing, you know what I mean? And so like, but your life goes the way it goes and it gets you to the point of where you're at. And that
Yeah.
sounds very like Matthew McConaughey, but
Yeah.
but it's kind of one of those things that like it always could have been done differently.
Yeah, absolutely. But
And we could always look back and be like, there was better choices.
yeah, and it's
But like, it should just be a snapshot. Your view should be it should be like, anybody behind me? Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It should be that quick. You don't get stuck back there.
like and I get it. Like, you know, a lot of men, gay men, suffer through addiction. You know, there's
Like drug addictions because of dealing with
drug, alcohol, you know, and it's like one of those things that's like there's so much trauma in that,
yeah.
you know.
And then you add on all your extra trauma.
Yeah, there's so much trauma in that, and like just trying to figure out who you are, do you belong, you know, drugs are fun, you know.
Drugs are fun.
It's true. Like whenever I was 20, 21, oh yeah,
Hey, any kids that are listening? He was 21. So,
yeah, I was of legal age.
Yeah, don't. We'll just I'll bleep that out or something.
Yeah, something
so,
like
so
that.
they don't know what the age was. He said 45.
Yes. You know, at the time when I was younger, I you know, partook in a lot of things that were, you know, like guys that my age are still doing like that, you know? And it's or they're 20, 21, they're still doing that too because this is how you cope. This is how you forget things. This is how you have fun. And, you know, for a long time I thought it was fun. And when you look back at it, it's like, damn, this was the saddest thing.
Do you know what mm, tell me what you think about that.
Sure.
And you help me correct facts if you know 'em.
Sure.
So like, I feel like that maybe gay people as a group kind of started coming out 70s, 80s, right?
Let me see. Yeah, I would say
Like
that. Yeah,
just like not a lot.
a trickle,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yes.
A gay trickle.
Yes. And then when the kind of 90s came, as it kind of pushed,
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I would say maybe our generation kind of really pushed it hard,
Yeah.
right?
Or at least became more accepting.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a heavy load to bear,
Yeah.
to be the person that breaks through.
Yeah.
And so my hope would be is that, so guys of your age, the people that kind of did that, the only way they knew how to cope with it at that time because of the way things were to do drugs and try to forget and
Yeah.
But maybe y'all made it easier for the next generation to not maybe have to do as much. Maybe it can get better.
I mean, like I see kids on TikTok where they're just kind of like, I would never had a boyfriend whenever I was like 13
But
or
you know what's crazy?
14.
Like you were like saying when you told your mom at like 17 and like you knew it like 4, I felt like I was like, that's really young. I felt like that you were really aggressive with that. So the fact that you're like these kids on TikTok are like, being aggressive, I feel like at the time you were being very aggressive as well.
Yeah, but it's different now. Like it's really truly different. Like when I see gay kids just being gay and just like it's just like just living their life as if like, okay, this is who I am.
But
And
but you did that. You did that. You understand that, right? Not you personally. The group as a whole of I think men are probably maybe our age, a little older. Maybe.
Yeah, I think like it's easier for them now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I get it. Like, our generation definitely helped out.
Right.
And it helps that our generation are parents now and have made things easier for their kids to be who they want to be.
Right.
I think that's the bigger factor. And it's like now it's like, I have a sister that's like 10 years younger than me. So she's like 35. And so like, even 10 years that, she was like in junior high, she's like, yeah, I had gay friends. She's like, everybody is cool with it,
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like looking back, I'm like, geez, like for me, it was like, it never felt like it was a struggle necessarily in school because like I said, I had all these things going for me.
Right.
It's like I was talented. I could sing, I could play saxophone and it was funny. But it was
just to name a few.
Just to name a few. And I will say this. In high school, I did have a boyfriend.
Like secretly?
No.
Oh, like out in the open?
Yeah.
How old were you at that time?
I was like 16, 17. And I think like he
was it cool? Like everybody's cool?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel
like we were band kids and like we were band kids and like what happens in band stays in band.
So you know how like you spoke to kind of like kids are so comfortable now.
Mm-hmm.
Were you comfortable?
Oh yeah.
Having a boy, like people know this is my boyfriend.
Yeah, everybody did.
But I feel like that's so great. Don't you feel like that a lot of kids did not have that, or do I not understand the time? Like I feel like in Edna.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that was happening in Edna.
Not that you knew about.
So that's what I'm saying. You say everybody knew, right?
Yeah.
So like in Edna, if it was happening, ain't nobody know. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't out. It wasn't out in the eye view, or their eye was blind.
You were probably blind.
But I mean, I think I would,
because you would have to be looking for it. Essentially,
no. But I would think I would. I mean, I think if there was 2 openly gay kids in my school and they were dating, I think I would have known about it openly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I don't know if it was happening out in the open and it was okay.
It's kind of like Jurassic Park, you know, life finds a way. Gays will find a way.
Is that the?
It's our motto. Unofficial.
Oh man.
But I mean, like it. Like I look back on it now, and it's just kind of like we were together as kids because we were gay. Like that was the only common factor. It's like this dude literally, and I mean this unironically, he literally loved Liberace. I shit you not.
Well, I mean, it's not a reach, Tito. I mean, like, you know,
but
if you were like, you're like, he shockingly,
I mean, like, but that's like the
loved
stereotype. Okay, that's
Ozzy Osbourne.
No, that is the stereotypical view,
Right.
And it's just like when I look back at it, I'm just like, oh my god.
No, so do you think he did that because it was a stereotypical view, or do you think he really loved Liberace?
He really loved Liberace.
Have you seen Behind the Candelabra?
I have.
What'd you think?
I thought it was good.
I thought it was good too.
I thought it was real good.
And I thought Michael Douglas did a fucking awesome job.
He did.
He's a good actor, man.
But it's like when I look back at like I said, and when I look back at that quote unquote relationship, it was a high school relationship, whatever. But it's kind of like, man, we were only together because we liked boys, and that was the only common factor.
Oh, I mean, were y'all the only two gay guys in the school? I mean, out gay guys, not closeted gay guys. Or is that what I?
So here's the thing.
Okay.
Gay people know other gay people, and this is something that we just
move among you.
Yes, you have no idea, like. I
feel like I knew that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's like a sixth sense about it. I don't know.
Like
old school gay, like new school gay guys. I feel like they just get grinded and there's like, who's in my area?
Well, yes, but at the same time, it's kind of like
you're like a Jedi.
Even then, there's something about back in the day we used to call it gaydar, you know. But I say back in the day, it's like I don't know. I have to rename that something.
What do they call it now? Like they call it like Bluetooth. It's like Bluetooth. Like I don't know. I was trying to come up with something like Bluetooth and gay, but I couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah, gay tooth.
Gay tooth.
But
hey, you have gay tooth now. You're like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's like this weird thing. Like I remember, like, and it's funny because like they all denied it. Like we all hung out. Like we all talked to one each other. Like all the gays in high school, and I was openly gay, and so was the guy that I was with.
Yeah,
but there was at least 3 others that we just knew, and they would deny it. They would say, no, girl, I'm not, and it's like, but they didn't say girl, but they'd be like, no, I'm not, and it's just like, come on. And it turns out that one of them, he actually he was like, yeah, I am,
eventually in high school.
Yeah. And it's like, we ended up like becoming really good friends. And
because he could be himself.
Yeah. And it's like, he ended up moving to Dallas to go to school. And we were such good friends that he was like, hey, just move here. Your life is crap back in Uvalde. Just, this is the time I was like 19, 20, and we were friends all the way through high school, and even after. And so I moved up there to Dallas with him, and I'm grateful for it because there was nothing going on in the small town, and there was nothing for a gay person there. And it's almost like, if I ever have to go back to Uvalde, it's this weird place that it's just this weird place to me where it's just like, it holds no sentimental value to me. It holds no like good memory. It's just like this place that I moved to after I was 10 and just kind of figured stuff out on my own, and I'm not like thinking like it's a terrible place. I'm sure, Uvalde Chamber of Commerce, I promise you, I'm not trying to be mean, but
Hey, it's okay not to like a city.
but at the same time, it's just not a great place if you want to be, who you want to be, much like Edna.
Yeah.
It's still that way today for the most part. There might be one or two people that are living their best life, but for the most part, those small town Texas towns aren't necessarily conducive to the best treatment for gay people.
Yes.
And I do remember kind of being teased. Like there's this weird thing that straight dudes do.
Okay.
not when you're older, but like whenever you're like,
I mean, here's the sad part about it is I'm sure I'm going to agree, but like I'm probably gonna be like, man, I gotta agree with this. Ugh.
You probably will because you probably have seen it if you have not done it. You don't strike me as somebody that would have done this because you don't strike me as a bully.
I mean, no, I'm not. I have not been much of a bully. No.
Yeah. So I remember like a couple of dudes. So weird. They would fake like they would try to use me as the butt of their joke, like the butt of their gay joke.
Mm-hmm.
And they would sit in my lap and pretend to fake kiss me, which was the weirdest thing to do to prove that you're a straight man,
right?
A straight boy. And so like everybody would laugh at me, blah, 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 and that would make me feel like, like it's like, how did he know that I was gay? Obviously he did, because it was there's no secret. But at the same time, it was just kind of like, he kind of weaponized it to try to humiliate me,
That's probably be a pretty shitty feeling.
Yeah. And it's just like, all of these experiences were like, they still obviously are still in my head, but it's like, I wonder, like usually the way that I see it is like most people that are, like anti-gay or like make the loudest huff about it usually are on Grindr.
Just in his experience.
I mean,
hey, well, these are not new stories to me.
Yeah, it's like
based on my friends that are gay and the things that I've heard. This is pretty this is pretty consistent.
It's like the joke goes, it's kind of like, a lot of people say you can't find a husband on Grindr. It's like I found several of yours,
I guess that's like I guess I've never heard that joke. I don't know if that's like that saying. I guess maybe that's I like it a lot, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense to me, right?
Yeah, and it's just kind of like this weird, like, I don't know. It's like I feel comfortable enough. Like being gay is not, for me, like my thing. Like I get it. Like it's just a small facet of who I am,
mm-hmm.
but getting there took a lot to really like kind of get to that point, because like there's a lot of people where they're only seen as like, oh, that's that gay dude.
So my only way to like empathize or maybe feel what that could even closely feel like is being someone that's heavily tattooed.
Yeah.
And you get a lot. It's not on that level, and there's nothing I have to fight through, and like there was no, like, you know what I mean. But like if my experience, my similar experience over here is just being tattooed, and like just a lot of the things that you spoke to about your mom, how she felt about it. My mom hated it in the beginning. Sorry, Mom. I mean, you did. It's not a big deal because she really supports me now. And that's all that matters.
That's true.
And the same thing you said about your mom, it's like she didn't like it. But in the end, she supported you, and that was great. And so that's my only, because like you were talking, and I was like, yeah, the only way I could relate to that is being tattooed. When you would say things,
Yeah, I mean, like
But
that speaks
I
volumes to your
chose this. Like
character.
you didn't choose. You are who you are.
Well, I
You
don't know
didn't.
if I chose it. We haven't figured that out yet. Is it
Okay.
genetic? Is it environmental?
Well, I
Is
mean,
it,
but I'm asking you.
did I choose? I don't know. It just
Yeah.
kind of happened.
Yeah. So I chose all this bullshit.
Well,
Yeah.
but the thing is like, at least, your mom supports you now.
Yeah.
That's the most important
Hey,
thing.
and oh, by the way, parents that have kids get a lot of tattoos. I mean, just raise a good kid. Look at me. Look how well I turned out.
Good posture.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
present well.
I have great shoes.
You have a lot of shoes,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
But it's really kind of, it is slowly becoming my one of just like two things, it's like my little
Mhm.
girl and Erin, obviously, my
Yeah.
girlfriend, but then, and shoes. That's my kind of my thing. And then
Yeah.
doing this.
Well, I mean,
This
I
is a
don't have
very
that many
like, this
shoes.
is a good Friday night for me. I like this.
No,
You know?
I do too. Like
Yeah.
it's been a while since I talked this much.
It's been a while.
Don't get copyright strike.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is good. And it's, I think podcasts, whenever they have like initially, whenever you first asked me, I
Mhm.
was like, am I even that interesting?
I think
Like, why is,
did you
like,
ask me that?
yeah,
Because some people have asked me that, like, or said like, well, why me?
yeah.
Or something. Did you feel like, why me?
I felt more like it's kind of like we were talking earlier about imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
where it was just kind of like, what is there about me that makes me even remotely interesting to anyone? And I think like that's always kind of been a theme in my life. And it kind of, I don't want to say triggered, but it kind of made me feel as if, pardon me, it kind of made me feel as if like, it's like, I'm not that important. I'm just some dude, And it's just kind of like, why me? Like, why would he ask me? And so like, that's a matter of self-worth,
Right.
And it's like, it's funny whenever you're asked to do kind of stuff like this, where it's like, you instantly doubt yourself or, or you don't feel confident. Um, but, luckily I'm blessed with the gift of gab and can talk for hours.
Well, and I think the other thing is, mm, you're willing to talk about things that are interesting for people to listen to, and I don't mean that in like I mean it in a way of like, you're not just talking to be talking.
Yeah.
You're talking with a purpose, and like, I like listening to people talk that like really put intent and purpose behind what they're saying. If you're kind of just talking to be talking, it's like I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I
And so
mean,
like,
like,
and so I when you say I have the gift of gab, I also think you have the gift of being very honest and open, and I think that makes it very genuine and interesting.
well, thanks.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I based how interesting you are on like the 10-year-old person that I remembered. So I was like, and I was just like really fascinated to see who you were,
Yeah.
and like, I mean,
It's like a whirlwind, huh?
like,
It-
like very. I'm not really shocked or surprised very often. I understand that there's like bad things in the world and bad
Yeah.
things happen to people and things like that. And mm. But I will say I was not quite prepared for all this tonight. But I mean, I think that's okay, and I think it's just so great. And I'm finding stuff out at the same time that everyone else that's listening to this basically
Yeah.
finds it out.
Yeah.
Well, it's months earlier, but like whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, mm, it's great.
tough.
Yeah, you just you're
I
doing
see-
you're doing a bang up job.
I
You just
see
keep
that-
you keep doing what you're doing. You're doing
I see
great.
the shock in your eyes a little bit, and it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think that people really, like, especially like like it's easy to open up to a stranger, and essentially 35 years we're strangers. And it's much easier to do that than it would be had we known each other this whole time,
Right.
you know? And so like, and I'm grateful that you make it easy to talk to, like that's one thing that, most people don't. It's like, you're given 2 ears and one mouth for a reason,
I love that.
you know?
I, do you know the first time I heard that saying?
When?
I don't know if I've told a couple of people this, but the first time I heard you have 2 ears and one mouth, use them appropriately, was from my lawyer when I was getting divorced. And I don't know really what that means. All I know is that like this lady, she was serious. Like she was a serious lady, and she was very serious about that when she said it. And she goes, "You need to listen to me." And I was like, "Okay."
Did you listen to her?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much a person that like, I'm not gonna come to your job and slap the broom out of your hand. Like,
Broom.
Yeah. we all know all the versions. Okay.
Yeah.
Or keep this as possible. I mean, I cursed like a sailor. Can we keep this PG as possible?
Yes.
So, but like, if I go into a convenience store,
Right.
Look, I am no expert in convenience stores.
Correct.
And so to my appearance that shit might be looking like it's going to hell in a handbasket, it is not mine. I don't work there. It is not my job to judge. I'm just there to get my Gatorades and a power bar and get out.
Yes.
And so don't, try not to get too frustrated, upset about anything. Like it's not, it's so incredibly small in your entire life. It's just not even worth like taking the time to do it.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know if you know about stoicism or anything like that.
No, but go.
Like,
I'm interested.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where they definitely teach where it's like, it's just philosophy essentially, where it's just kind of like you have 2 ears and one mouth. You should be listening more than you talk. Not only that, you don't have to have an opinion about everything.
Oh man, it's like you're whispering sweet nothings into my ear. You're just like, hey, you don't have to have an opinion about everything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't, and that's like where everything goes wrong.
Here's a straight white male reference. Michael Jordan didn't have opinion about anything. Have you noticed? Like you don't ever hear that guy talk about anything.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Michael Jordan loves it. But Michael Jordan's out. That guy wants to sell some shoes. He's like, I'm not trying to get any opinions about anything.
It's all about the empire.
Hey, man, God bless. God bless.
And it's, I kind of feel like I'm trying to be better in that sense because, in today's day and age, everybody has an opinion. Everybody's offended. Everybody, is just waiting to tell you what they think.
Right.
And it's hard to not have an opinion, or at the very least, you don't have to share it.
Right.
You don't.
No.
You should just listen.
Hey, I got tons of opinions. But they're mine. Like, why am I going to give them to you?
Yeah. And
you know what I mean? They're my opinions. It's like, okay, think of it this way. Think of opinions as like a basket full of carrots.
Okay.
Okay. You can just go around handing carrots out to people. But if someone goes, hey man, can I have a carrot? You're like, yeah, I can give you a carrot. So if someone comes up to you and they go like, hey, what's your opinion on whatever?
Yeah.
Give it to them. But if they don't, shut the fuck up. Like, is that fair enough?
No,
it's like
you
don't like keep your opinions are for you. You don't have to share them with everybody.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, in today's day and age, everybody's so quick to classify you and put you into the group. And in order to be able to do that, you have to share your opinion.
Right.
So they can sort you out. And I'm sure that there are some opinions that do not align with the typical, groups that I belong to, whether it be, Mexican Americans or gay people. I'm sure that I will find a way to offend them with a certain opinion of mine.
Sure.
And I would much rather not, because it's not worth that fight.
Right.
And so I just usually keep those things to myself. I will make my decisions based on my own opinions. And if I want something, your opinion, I would beat it out of you.
Or you could ask for it. You could ask
Or
for
ask
you
for
could
it.
ask for, hey, can I have a carrot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
So,
even then, sometimes you can't be mad when somebody gives you a carrot when you ask for it.
yeah, and also like don't complain about the carrot and don't don't be like this is
Yeah.
the wrong size carrot and that's not the carrot I would have given you.
That's not the right color.
Yeah, or whatever. Like I mean, he had carrots. You asked for a carrot. Take the carrot he gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to like it either.
And I feel like
But
that's
you
where
don't have
we
to tell
go
him. You don't have to tell him
wrong.
you don't like his carrots.
Yes. Yes.
This analogy got way
It's
far.
like these are the worst carrots ever.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
no.
hey, don't tell him
it's
about that.
like,
You asked for a carrot. He gave you a free carrot. That's you didn't get a good free carrot. I don't know
You're
what to tell
falling
you.
off the carrot train here.
So what I'm gonna have you do? I need to get like a beer, water, something.
Yeah, go for it.
We're gonna just lighten up the mood a little bit. Dude, we have stepped into such heavy things.
I know. And you weren't expecting all that, huh?
But nobody can hear me. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that camera can hear me, but
Wait, it won't pick you up from over there?
no, it's like it's like directional. So like once we're like in it, but that one over there will,
Oh,
and that
I
one
see.
kind of does a little bit, but not really.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, it's kind of like talking to you is really easy. First off, so that's good.
Thank you. No, I mean I'm glad. I mean that I want it to be also very interesting that like like I feel like that we had I don't know like when you came in I gave you a hug and I was just like I mean I don't know who this person is.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like I mean essentially I mean and not in a bad way. I mean you're like a stranger.
Yes.
But you're not.
Yes.
And I think similarly, what's kind of cool is that my girlfriend before now, I knew her 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then 10 years passed, or it's longer now, but time passed and then we reconnected.
Yeah.
And, there was something amiss then that's not here now. And it's really cool. And I mean, shit happens over 10 years. Shit happens over 35 years.
I know.
Lots of
A
shit
lot
happens.
of shit
Yeah,
happens.
apparently, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like you think back, like now we're 45, and essentially, are we middle aged? Are we considered?
I mean,
Right
if
in the-
90 is the probably end point, like we're pretty much in the middle. Yeah.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
That's like moderated middle podcast, middle of my life. That was a real weird irony that came across like in the very beginning. So,
and the weird thing is like today I was thinking, I don't know where it came from, but I was like, you know what? I've outlived my dad.
that's wild.
Yeah. I was like, this is crazy. It's like I'm older than my dad was whenever he died. And so I don't know. This is like one of those things where it's like a moment where you just like have a realization and you say, damn, where did all the time go? And it's, I don't know.
I think something you said really cool there was like, I think you said you pause it, like,
Yeah.
like you take notice of it.
Yeah.
And then like, you don't have to hold on to it. Like these little things that people could possibly get stuck on, right? Where you get stuck on like, oh, my dad wouldn't live this long. My dad would live this long.
Yeah.
I'm out. You could take this kind of off road, but
Yeah.
you said you kind of pause it, you look at it. And I'm assuming like you go, okay, well, I'm just going to sort that away. I could kind of process a little bit later or just think
Yeah.
about it more later. But like, that's interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You take note, right?
Yeah. And it's one of those things like I don't think most people really do. It's like,
You got to slow down though. You can't be anxious, like all the things you talked about, right? When
Yeah.
you're being so anxious and so you can't take time to see the things in your life and work on them because you're going so
Yeah.
fast. Is that
yeah,
correct?
or anxious, or like I said, I'm a caretaker, taking care of other people, and worrying about them too much, and you don't have time to think about yourself and what's going on in your head.
Right.
And so, like, I think like for majority of my life, And all my relationships have been that way, where it's like I was worried about them more than I was worried about myself. And it's like, it's kind of like I I'm divorced and we were together. We were married for 3 or 4 years, something like that. But we were together for a long time. Um, at the time, I lived in Seattle for a while because he went to school there, and he's from Sweden, and so like we had like this long distance relationship for a long time. He ended up coming to school here, and I moved up there, and then he had to go back, and then we got married in Sweden, and he came over here, and I realized like, whenever we were going through our divorce, it was just like I was so worried and so concerned about him and his feelings and his, like his well-being, and I forgot who I was.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to listen to this, and that's fine. But
What's his name?
John.
Hi, John.
Oh, even though I never pronounced his name correctly in
John.
Swedish.
How you say it in Swedish?
I'm not even going to say it because I can never say it.
Well, I mean,
something
do you think,
along like Jon.
hey,
He's gonna judge me for that. But
so one of the first things that Dino said when he came in to the house, and like we're just like, I mean, just really kind of like, hey, what's happening? He goes, "You have this very thick East Texas accent, and I know my accent's heavy, but like, I wonder if it got worse like over time, like over the years, like when I was a kid, maybe it wasn't as bad.
Don't remember
It
it
being that way,
Yeah.
but I don't like." I don't, this sounds crazy. I don't really remember your voice being the same either. I don't know what it is, like how different it is. I just don't remember. I don't know. I don't remember what I've read. I don't remember what your voice was, but it feels like it wasn't this. But that makes sense because you're a grown as adult now.
Yeah. And not only that, like my voice has changed since then. It's kind of like, it's funny, like, because I noticed this happened to a friend of mine whenever he came out. He just got like the gay inflection in his voice, and I don't even know what to call it. It's just like a gay accent. I don't know. I don't know, but like I have that, and on top of that, it's like I don't think like I have any other accent. Sometimes it'll come out, where I'll say something like y'all or just things like that. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, to go back to my ex-husband.
Yes.
And I can never pronounce his name. I'm sorry. And so like, we're on good terms. Like we're obviously friends first. And I think like, that speaks to his character as well as mine.
Sure.
But it was kind of like during that entire time, it was painful, like divorce is painful.
It's a loss. It's like a death, whether it was good or bad.
Yeah.
It's still a loss, and you have to remember, two people are losing something.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, you want to be mindful of that other person, but you can't forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
My favorite saying is like, you have to put your mask on first before you put on anybody else's.
Absolutely.
And so and it's a fine balance. It requires boundaries. It requires like being egoless and selfish at the same time, making sure that you don't, like you said, like lose yourself and trying to help somebody else. It's a hard thing to do, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
Yeah.
You should definitely try to do your best.
You should. And the thing too is like, you caught me at a time when I'm kind of going through a bit of a dark period. I'll just be honest. Another bit of a dark period. But I kind of view it as like, I don't view it as like a bad time. I just view it as kind of like, have you ever seen like, like that device on the train track where it's kind of like a seesaw thing and people are pushing it to kind of, I feel like I'm on one of those and I'm trying to maneuver myself through a tunnel, and it's moving so slowly and it is so dark, but you know that if you just keep going, you're eventually going to see the light literally at the end of the tunnel, you know? And so it's just kind of like, I find myself like right now, I'm not seeing it as like, sure, I'm in a pretty hard spot, you know, as far as like emotionally and romantically. Um, but I just kind of take it as a view of like, I'm just going to have to sit in this darkness for a bit. And eventually I'm just going to move into the light. And I think that's a difference between me now and me 10 years ago, you know?
Would it be fair to say in your analogy,
Yeah.
you said this is a period, so that means you've done this before.
Yes.
And I would venture to say, like, every time you do this, the tunnel kind of gets a little bit shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit more
Absolutely.
manageable. You get less scared of the dark.
Yeah.
You start understanding there's always an end. You can always get on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is with a lot of people, they get in that first or second tunnel and they kind of get
Yeah.
stuck. And and that tunnel feels real long and dark and they don't push through. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe a train comes and hits them in the ass and it shoves them out into the light
Yeah.
and they're forced out to another tunnel that they don't know how to maneuver. And
Yeah.
again, using your analogy, but like, I think that, once again, it speaks to who you are, what you've done, that you understand that whole
Yeah.
concept and then don't get stuck.
Yeah, and it's also kind of like recognizing a pattern of what you do, and especially like
Who
when
you are and who
yeah,
you're not.
yeah,
And you know what I really like about you, and I think this is a very healthy thing that you did.
sure.
You're like, look, I'm a good singer. I can play the saxophone, right? Saxophone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was scared I messed that up. I can play the saxophone. I'm funny. These are the things I'm good at, right? But you're also like, hey, these are the things I'm bad at. Like you know what I mean? And you, because you should own the things you're good at,
Yes.
not in a conceited way, but just like, hey, I feel like I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And you should own the things that you're bad at as well.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I'm good at saxophone anymore, believe me, but I'm
Well,
just saying,
I did say I was disappointed you didn't bring. I didn't know that you didn't bring your saxophone.
well, I've always had a bit of a difficult time just kind of like identifying my strengths. Like, I really hate the question of like, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And I'm like, hell if I know,
Right.
it's like I can always name off the weaknesses first. The strengths, I'm like,
Well, I mean, and that just kind of goes back to
Mhm.
like everything you've kind of already talked about. Like,
Yeah.
that fits that kind of mold.
Yeah.
But I'd say you're getting better at it.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
That's all we can do is just kind of get better. But yeah, it's, like I said, right now things are kind of like, but I know that eventually they'll get better. And I think like that's the difference between being 45 and
25.
25.
Right.
And I
Because
think,
right now you just be boozing your mind out. Like,
oh God, yeah.
yeah.
I'd be doing
Now,
a
now
lot.
you're an adult.
Yeah. And
Look
it's
at you.
like, oh, I can be sad. Great.
So this is how, I don't know how this is going to go, but we're just going to do it.
Sure.
So how I usually like to wrap things up is I just kind of talk about what do people do? Well, what do you do to help create balance? Like, especially you're going through these dark times.
Yeah.
So like, what do you do to keep pushing forward in that kind of sense? And like, how do you balance your life and stuff like that? And then usually that's how I end it.
Yeah.
But then we're going to look at these like questions. We're going to read off some stuff.
Sure.
Like we'll just kind of say, hey, did you know that about me?
Sure.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out on the fly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you do to try to like help you balance your life and stay good? And, obviously you've done therapy before.
Yeah.
So like, just kind of go from there.
Yeah. So I make it a point I do two things regularly. One is I meditate.
Yes.
There's always 10 minutes somewhere where you can find time. Doesn't need to take very long. Number two is that I make a point, no matter how crappy my day is, like no matter how crappy it is, I will always write down 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. Because it's always a light, even whenever it's completely dark, at least you can say, hey, I made it through this day and I'm so grateful for it. Or I'm grateful for the fact that I am still alive right now. Um, Grateful that I have a roof over my head, those kinds of things, and it's,
I mean, those are dailies. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like you could do those three just every day if you just said those three things every day,
yeah,
right? I'm glad I have air to breathe. I'm glad I have a roof over my head.
yeah,
I'm glad I'm alive. Like
yeah,
if you just said those things like every day.
yeah. And it's one of those things like has kept me from not getting off the tracks so far. Obviously I definitely felt like I've been off the tracks, even though, it hasn't been diverted from that far, but I I feel like those two things that I do daily have helped me. And also just kind of reach out to somebody on the phone or a text or something like that, just to kind of like make sure, like, just to get your pulse from like saying, like, hey, do you mind talking to me? Just kind of reaching out, even though you're not going to be here, at least give me a call, you know?
Hey, and oh, by the way, a friend that Dino is reaching out to, just listen, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah.
let me tell you how you can be a really fantastic friend.
Mm,
2 ears, 1 mouth,
yeah.
right? Like, listen, just they don't like people just need to like sometimes people process things verbally
Yeah.
and having someone that just listens.
Yeah.
Hey, and do that with your spouse too. Like, do that with your partner too. Do
Yeah.
that with your parents too. I digress, but just hey, friend that Dino's calling. Like, just listen. I don't know if there really is one. Like, if I'm talking about you right now, I don't know you. He knows who you are. I don't know who you are. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that. But you're friend. If you're the friend that the person's coming to, like, if they and then at the end, if you want to go, hey, well, do you want my opinion?
Yeah.
You can give it to them. But don't be mad if they like, they don't like it. It's just your opinion. It's not what they should
Yeah.
do. It's what you think they should do.
Yes.
Okay. Anyways,
Precisely. Um,
that's my two
and
cents.
and not only that, like, I think like there's a point too where it's like, in order to have a sanity check for myself, is that I have to make sure that I get outside at least
Yes.
once a day,
Yes.
whether it's like a walk or just to get away. And I don't think enough people, I think like people think that their jobs are way too important to step away. And it's like, no, you need to.
Love
You
it.
need to step away.
Listen to this man.
It's, I mean, you don't have to listen to me, but
No,
I just
no,
like,
I'm telling you, listen to him. Listen to him.
But it's like, I feel like most people just think that they're too important to just walk away, to get a breather. You should do it. It's done wonders for me. I make it a point to, and this is part of the reason why I love being able to work remotely this whole time, is at a lunchtime, I'll just go walk 3, 4, 5 miles, you know, and when I come back, I can focus and I feel better.
Yeah.
And you lose 100 pounds.
And you lose
apparently.
100 pounds. See, everybody wins.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the simple things that I think that I think most people want to go to a retreat, or, pay for tarot card reading, or, just to try to like do these things to make their lives better, when in fact the things that could make your life better are completely free.
Oh man, you stole the words right out of my mouth. Like I just, I don't know, wrap your head around like what people did before TVs. Like, I mean, like,
I don't
like,
know.
like
The radio?
okay. Well, what did people do before? Right? Like, I mean, we could just go down this line, right? Like, so,
The telegraph?
so like, there's a lot of stuff that's free.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that you can do that's relatively free.
Yeah. No.
And everybody define your thing. If your neighbor has a thing they do and you don't like it, don't worry about it. Like, go find your thing.
Yeah. And I think like it's just a matter of what works for you. And it's a lot of, trial and error.
But by the way, meditation can work for everybody.
There's some things though.
Hey, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be difficult for people with different kind of, mental
Yeah.
disabilities and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's not worth it's worth a try.
And it's like one of those things where I think like most people, I think meditation is actually kind of one of those things that's becoming more popularized,
Right.
and we have apps for that, and
Yeah,
and
apps for that.
yeah, there's an app for it, and I feel as if my life has changed a lot better, or it's made me more like conscious about what I'm doing, and in certain little moments where I'm just kind of like, okay, that's a thought. Okay, that's it. That's all it is. It's
Yeah.
just a thought.
Yeah, it's just
Just
thought.
move away.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't it just because it comes through your mind doesn't mean it has to mean something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the way that I see it is just kind of like it's the opinion or the carrot.
Right, right.
That nobody's asking for.
Yep, just put it on the ground or just put it back in the basket.
Yeah,
Just
we've come full
make
circle.
sure you check out the bonus footage where Dino and I play a little game I like to call the Newly Friends game. Isn't that right, little Scotty?